You gotta get into the groove.
Hello, football fans, and welcome to the Saturday Pigskin exclusively right here on the OH Report. My name is Brian Skowronski. I am your host, and joining us this week, we have former Tigers assistant coach Effie James, also played some quarterback for Mansfield Senior back in the heyday. We also have a special guest, Stan Jefferson, joining us. He is the former senior high head football coach, former Ashland University assistant, and also the former player development coach for the Ohio State University. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Week one of the high school football season underway, and such a pivotal week. I'm always told by coaches you want to start the season off the correct way. Both of you know a little something about that. Why is it that week one is so pivotal to getting your season going the right way?
Well, I think it's pivotal because you get a chance to see your kids in live action. In high school, football, basketball, whatever sport it is, you know, you practice a little bit, you do some things, but when you got young kids, and that's basically what we're talking about, you really never can know how they're going to respond to people showing up to watch, the lights, the actual game. So it's really important to see what you have, because you could have some promise in practice, but when the lights come on, you know, they're going to be exposed to a whole different atmosphere. So it's really important to see what you have as a coach.
It's different on Friday nights than when you're playing in the scrimmages and
Absolutely.
the 7-on-7s, I'm sure.
Plus the fact this game counts. This game counts. With the games that you play during the preseason, if you make those mistakes or you're working out whatever kinks you're trying to work out offensively and defensively, but now you're playing a game that's going to count in your standings one way or the other, could have league implications, could have playoff implications.
Was it your experience, Coach, that week one, typically when you would get wins, that you guys would get off the hot starts to the season?
We placed a big emphasis on the very first game of the season because we wanted to get off to a fast start. And hopefully you can take that first win and then build off of that for the remaining games that as you go through your season. Plus the fact that community, the school, your players, everybody's excited for the first game because everybody want to see what you have, and even you as a coach want to see what do we really have here. So to me, that first game was really like playing a championship game.
That was the case for several teams here in the area on Friday night. Let's take a look at what all the Richland County schools did right here on the Richland Run Back. We're going to start with a special Thursday night game. Madison at Shelby. Rams coming off a winless season. And Whippets 13-1 last year. And boy, this storyline felt like deja vu all over again. Here's McGuire Albert, junior quarterback, getting the damage done early on. A little touchdown scamper there. Got the Whippets on the board. And they were scoring fast and furious. Here's Uriah Schwemley, just a quick slant pattern. I think this kid's in line for a monster season. Offensively, the Rams struggled throughout the entire game, and you can see the Whippets only returned one starter back on defense, but flying to the football, gotta like that.
One thing I will say, Brian, is about this Whippets team, their backups played so much time last year because the Whippets, you know, they run ball to everybody. They got a running clock against every team that they played. So these backups played a lot last season.
And here's one of them, Owen Fisher, just a sophomore this year, long touchdown run. It was blowout city in the first half for Shelby. They were celebrating scores over and over again. We'll show you one more. It's Fisher. Actually, this one didn't count. He was about $170, 2 touchdowns on the day. They said he stepped out here. Not so sure on the replay, but Shelby rolls to a week one victory. Up at Norwalk, the Mansfield TYgers on the road, expecting a big year, but man, maybe the Truckers didn't exactly get the memo. Mansfield struggled tackling all night long, as you'll see in these highlights, and this guy, Trayvon Raymore, huge night, 6-yard touchdown here, put him on the board early in the first quarter. He was not done, not even a little bit. Raymore had 2 long runs to set up this Alec Maloney 1-yard touchdown run. It's 14-0. Norwalk fans digging it as they didn't really know what to expect from their team. All the conversation I heard early in the week was that they were inexperienced. Didn't look like it on this night as Garrett Chapin connects with Ethan Phillips. It's 28-0 as they say that he hit the pylon. So Norwalk rolling at home. The Tigers tried to fight back, 21 unanswered points. Here's Armand Hughley with a touchdown grab from Angelo Gross. But it's not going to be enough. Just too much Raymore, and the Truckers roll to victory, 42-21. I would say that's got to be the surprise of Friday night. We'll take it out to the Colt Corral, where it's Fredericktown at Clear Fork. The Colts undefeated in the regular season last year, looking like they could do more the same. Here's Brennan South hooking up with A.J. Bluebach, and it's an early lead for the Colts, who have a two-quarterback system. They did it last year, and it worked. Two different guys this year, still working out. It's Dylan Schaefer now in a QB, and he hooks up with Colin Kreider. Another touchdown for Clear Fork. They got things going early and often, and there are three phases to football, guys: offense, defense, and special teams. It can be big if you do it right.
Absolutely. These plays right here can be the difference in a game. They can break a team down. They can lift a team up if you're down. And if you're winning the game, it takes you to another level. So getting a score on special teams really can change the game for both teams.
That was Caden Flynn, 70 yards to the crib. Now it's Zach Homerick. Long run, takes him inside of the 10. Trevon Trammell's going to have a monster run to Pater here coming up. That's going to end the highlight 63-0, boys.
I can tell you right now, what you see, Brian, is you heard Effie talk about the role of special teams. The special team play is critical. And even though you may be very good on the offensive and defensive side, without that special team, it makes it very tough.
Here's Lexington at Ontario. The backyard rivalry fans over there are calling it. Both seeking some bounce-back seasons this year. Chris Miller, first-year head coach for the Warriors, looking to get them off to a nice start, but they would not get off to one at all. Offense was a struggle for the Warriors for most of the contest. Different story for the Minutemen. They got off hot. 80-yard touchdown bomb, Jacob Depperschmidt connecting with Josh Aiello. He's going to take it to the house, and it looked like things were going pretty well for Lex. This is early in the game.
Absolutely. Big play early in the game. It's really important. Like we talked about earlier, that first game is so important, but actually getting big plays early really gets your team going, and it really can lead to greater things later on in the game once you get big plays early.
Defensively, Lexington so stout in the first half. Here's a goal line stand to close the first half. Looked like Ontario was going to tie it at 7 apiece, but not so much. The Minutemen crack down and keep them out. Let's fast forward now all the way to the fourth quarter. Ethan Snyder making a catch. There were very few receptions for Ontario on the night. Then Bryce Hill pounds it in from 1 yard out. So we've got a tie ball game, folks, but hold the phone. The Minutemen driving here coming up. About to take it past midfield. It's Cade Stover, who was the star all night, but he fumbles. Ontario recovers, and the Warriors are in business. And even though they did not play well for most of the game, in position here to win it in the closing minutes. Here's the quarterback, senior Austin Ivy, clutch play as he broke loose. One of the few times he was able to create some space throughout the entire night. And then Garrett Niz, the big fella, the game-winning touchdown under 35 seconds to play. Ontario steals this thing, 14-7.
Tough loss, but once again, we have to just, Taylor will have to get the groups regroup to get ready for game 2.
Not pictured here, Lucas beat up Danville 22-0, the first time in 27 years that the Cubs have beat Danville, so I know that they were pretty excited out there. Another small school, Crestline knocked off Buckeye Central 26-6. Ty Clark had 3 touchdown passes. Fellas, week 1, all those games to digest from Richland County. A couple of former Tigers, I imagine that you guys got to be just about as shocked as everybody else was, because a lot of the conversation leading up, Tigers got a lot of big kids up front. They haven't had that in a while. Some great skill kids. They were getting beat 35-0 pretty early in that game.
And I think, and that's the thing we talked about, coaching high school sports, you know, it's different than any other level, because the pro level, even to some degree the college level, you pretty much know what you have. And even though they had a successful season last year and Coach Bradley and his staff do a great job, they don't know what they have. So here we are, the first game, they're on the road for the first time in a long time. Usually they get a home opener, but they're on the road to open the season. You know, film tells a little bit about a team, but not all of it. So you go out there, you send your kids out, and they play the game and they basically don't play well. And by the time they started to get into the game, which they did come back a little bit, it was too late. So I think this was more of a situation where the kids just weren't ready for the environment. Not necessarily ready to play, but just weren't ready for the environment. And the Norwalk kids jumped all over them. And by the time you look up, no more different in football and basketball. You look up, the game could be out of hand and you could fight as hard as you want. But if you don't play well early, it could get out of hand quickly.
That's why it's very important when you're playing on the road. Both of those games were on the road with Lex Ontario and Mansfield Norwalk, that you have to make sure that you practice all the scenarios that you could face being as a visiting team. And so though senior high has experience and Lexington has experience, you're still playing on the road in somebody's backyard. And so have those scenarios been practiced and the things that you need to do in order to be successful on Friday night.
How might that teeter-totter a season for, say a Norwalk or an Ontario where we weren't quite sure, and specifically for the Warriors, I didn't think that they were the better team on Friday night, but they get the win, so it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. How might that change things for them moving forward?
Well, for one thing, for a team or for a staff that may not have felt that, hey, I don't know where we are at, it gives a big spark plug for that team to get ready for week 2, because you got a win that you may not have been thinking that you was going to get. On another hand, for that team who was maybe projected to win, now they're going to say, wait, we're going to go back to the drawing board, and we're going to find out here we may need to cut back some, we may need to add some, so we're going to get ready for week 2.
All right, let's talk about some of the top players from Friday night. We'll show them to you right now in a segment we're calling Friday Night Phenoms. So here we go, our first Phenom of the week. Junior quarterback McGuire Albert got some playing time last year filling in for Brennan Armstrong. His first year, his first game as the guy, and he comes out and he showed out, fellas. 5 total touchdowns. You gotta like that start.
Yeah, last year, he really impressed me starting for Armstrong early in the season. He impressed me with his arm and his poise and his ability to step in and lead the team right away, even from a backup position. So I knew he would come into this season really ready to go.
So that he was a true dual threat, 3 running touchdowns on the night, threw for a couple as well, both of those to Uriah Schwemley. It also helps to have some weapons, and I think number 3 for them right here, boy, that he's going to be a special kid.
The more of those skilled guys you have, the easier it is.
Here's one more to Uriah in front of the home fans. Nothing better than getting pay dirt in front of the student section right there. Trayvon Raymore, he was a bell cow against Mansfield Senior. You see that 26 carries, just the ability to have that many touches in a game to wear on a defense. How valuable was that?
I'll tell you right now that for him to carry the ball that much, that would have been very tough for him last night.
And that's another thing about the Tigers. You come into the game, you don't really know what to expect. You can see it on film, but the physicality of the game you can't duplicate until you get in the game. And if a guy's pounding the ball, running hard, the offensive line's coming off the ball, it takes some time for you to adjust to that if you had not prepped properly for that. So he had a big night this night, and I would say the offensive line had to have had a big night also.
Yeah, when you look at it, certainly here on tape, there's some big guys up front for Norwalk. You can tell that they're winning the line of scrimmage, a storyline that I did not think that we would see against Mansfield Senior this year. They got some pretty special big hits as well. Huge night, though, for Raymore. How about Cade Stover? In a loss, even though he fumbled at the end of the game, 25 tackles, and I had numerous conversations on the sideline with some other people that were out watching. You could tell. We were talking a little bit earlier about you should know who the Division I prospect is when you're watching the game. There was no question. Number 8 belongs at Ohio State.
He's a kid that has had really top-notch, top player, Division I capability from day one. He's got the speed, he's got the instincts, and more than anything, he's got the competitive desire. He's played on and has been on a pretty average Lexington football team for the most part, but he still plays with a lot of heart, desire, and is a great competitor.
I think Coach Gerhardt is really trying to do a number of different things and ways to look to move him around to get him the ball this year.
And offensively, he did make a pretty big impact, moved around a lot. He told me that he wasn't a quarterback. That's where he was put. Last year, they tried to put the ball in his hands a lot. No question, though, on defense. From a freshman till now as a senior, he has always been a standout. Let's move on. And how about the Clear Fork offense? 8 touchdowns scored by the offense by 8 different guys. I imagine that has to just drive defensive coordinators nuts. Who do you game plan for? This has to be something that doesn't happen very often.
That's called a balanced offense.
Indeed, yeah. It's spreading it around to 8 different guys. Most teams, I wouldn't even imagine, have 8 guys on the depth chart that you would imagine you could put in on a Friday night.
And the one thing, I got a chance to see a little bit of this game against Fredericktown. Now, Fredericktown was obviously outmanned in this game, but the great thing that I saw in Clear Fork, like, listen, this is what we expect to do against teams. And, once the game got out of hand, I didn't see a whole lot of, messing around and playing around. They scored, they got off to the sideline, they didn't overly celebrate this. That shows me that they're a team on a mission that has a higher goal than just winning week 1. So they were really impressive. They have got great skilled players and great overall talent, and this team is going to go far. I could see that in the little bit that I watched them today.
Last but not least, Jackson Franks for the Crestline Bulldogs. 3 touchdown receptions in a week 1 win against Buckeye Central. Anytime you can have 3 touchdown grabs, it's always special.
It's tough to score in football games. That's just the fact of the matter. And people don't really realize that because you make it seem so, we're in a highlight age now, so all people see is highlights. But it's tough to score in a football game, especially for a receiver. So to get multiple touchdowns in a game, that really shows how special that receiver is and how valuable he is to his team.
But these are vertical strikes on these touchdowns also.
That's what I like about him. He has the ability to go deep, catch the ball, high point it in one of those situations. So Jackson Franks may have a big season this year for the Bulldogs. And now that I'm a teacher over there, these players keep telling me, man, they're going to be playoff bound. They've been down for a while, but maybe look out for the Crestline Bulldogs this year. Nice. All right, so that's at the high school level. At the college game, Ohio State, obviously you have many ties over there, and as fans, we watch them every week. Very curious, what do you think the mindset is of the team as they move into week 1, just everything that's going on over there?
Well, it's similar to some of the things that we talked about today, getting ready for the first game. Okay, they have Oregon State next week. Once again, want to get off to a fast start. Once again, it doesn't have conference implications, but it definitely has winning every game and building the building block to win every game for college football playoff implications. So those guys are going to be ready when they come into the stadium. Those guys are going to be ready to play them, and the Bucks will be ready.
And without question, playing at Ohio Stadium probably a big benefit to them.
Yes, yes.
Having 110,000 strong. Ryan Day, just your impressions of him. He's going to be the head coach for them when they go into that game. What should we expect to see from that guy?
You're going to see, I think, that an offense that has potentially could be a very high-scoring offense. They have the skill people across the board. They're going to have them at the wide receivers. They're going to have them at the tight ends. They have multiple running backs. Their offensive line is very experienced with most of the people. They did lose Billy Price last year, but they have the guy who has been a backup for a number of years there. If he should win that position, could be very, very well suited for that position. And so they have depth at the offensive line, and they are talented at the offensive line. So if you take that and you take the fact that you have great skilled people, their offense could be very explosive. On the flip side, when you look at defensively, defensive line is as good as they come. Obviously, everybody's discussing Nicky Bosa and so forth, but their linebacking crew, the secondary, the corners, all those guys are back from the corner position. They did lose Denzel Ward as a first-round pick to the Browns, but they have depth. And anytime you have depth at any level, and those guys played a lot, then when they come back the following year, okay, there's not an inexperience factor. So they're going to be fired up to play. First game of the season, college football playoff implications involved, first home game in the shoe, they'll be ready.
Do you have any indication, Effie, that maybe they'll have a little extra motivation and fire not having their head coach, and they'll come out and try to put it on Oregon State early?
Sure. Any kind of controversy, not even necessarily controversy, anything that you can use. I know as a coach, I try to use anything, and I've had history as a player where some coaches made up controversy to get us fired up because we needed a little bit extra focus, and
sure,
every team could use that, and you use that and to kind of tighten your bond, and I think that's exactly what's going to happen with Ohio State. They are a tremendous program, so anything that could happen in that program is just going to bring those guys tighter together, and I think they're going to be laser focused on week one. And to me, when you get a team that's got some issues going on and they can become tighter as a team, it doesn't matter who the opponent is because they're going to be laser focused, and I would pick them against anybody game one, to be honest.
We'll find out what the Buckeyes have for us next Saturday. As far as the high school players here in Richland County this week, what's your guys' top takeaway? What would you say was the #1 storyline for you?
I would have to say right now is the play of Norwalk Truckers in the Mansfield Senior High TYgers game. So once again, I think that Mansfield Senior High will get back to the drawing board, look and see what they did well, what they didn't do well, and then get ready for week 2. The Truckers, on the other hand, obviously going to be sky high for that big win, and then and we're going to put a lot of juice in their program as they get ready for week 2.
And I'd have to agree because I think, being close to the program as both of us are, we know what it means for Mansfield Senior is, as a coach, you sometimes in a game look for what I call film bait. And what that means is if my team didn't play well, even though we thought we were going to be something, we didn't, we're going to break down that video and we're going to watch play for play where you thought you were good in this area, we thought we were good in this area, we should have been good, and we really, really laser focus in. Because one thing you have to do with kids, sometimes you got to show them, see, you're not as good as you thought. So when we worked on those little fundamental steps that we work on that you hate and see how you missed it there, that's called what I call film bait, and I use it a lot as a coach, and that's what you have to take away from losses. The great thing about high school sports in general, early losses, non-conference, really have served no purpose other than to give you the experience of it so you can grow and get better. And I know Coach Bradley and his staff, they're going to use this game, and again, they're a team that I wouldn't pick against in week 2.
I think Sandusky Perkins probably isn't very happy with the week 1 result. I can say that right now.
Right.
All right, gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. That is the Saturday Pigskin Week 1 in the books. We'll see you again next time for week 2.